Hi, big guy. You're someone who can handle my demands.
The woman grasps the bald man's artifact, and the latter becomes instantly excited, opening countless eyes. The bald man's tentacles turn out to be cables. At this moment, these cables are continuously approaching the woman, eventually reaching into her skirt. The woman seems to enjoy this action. However, deep inside her heart, a sinister plan is brewing. Why does the bald man look like this? It turns out, they were the creators in ancient myths, and now they are in an amusement park, playing on a carousel. The time goes back a few days. Odin and others arrived at the house on the rock, and prepared to hold a new council of gods here, to discuss together about how to confront the new gods. But in today's society, the members of the old gods, for their own future or beliefs, have joined the camp of the new gods. So, only a dozen or so gods are present today. Although Odin is angry, the meeting still needs to be held. After all, these gods are enough to ignite the sacred fire. Just as they are preparing to go to the divine realm, Queen Sheba unexpectedly arrives at this place, but she hasn't received an invitation to the meeting. Odin is also surprised by her arrival, because Queen Sheba had lost many followers due to Odin's tyranny, and she almost became a beggary. In order to survive, she joined the camp of the new gods. Odin believes she must be a spy sent to gather information, so he has no intention of bringing her to the meeting. At this moment, Queen Sheba speaks up. In her view, she used to be one of the oldest deities in the desert, and personally witnessed the first magnificent horse offered to Odin by the people. Among the gods present, she has the highest seniority. Odin thinks, with so many gods watching, he can't give her no face at all. He nods in agreement. He hands Queen Sheba a conference ticket. Then the gods walk through a long corridor, and arrive at a wooden house. Here, there is a carousel. In fact, this place is infused with the power of countless believers' faith. And after Odin's modifications, it has become an entrance to the divine realm. Odin calls for Jack to join him in the council of the chief gods. Jack actually doesn't want to go, but the boss said so. He still decides to go. Jack takes a closer look. The carousel they're riding on doesn't seem ordinary. With Odin's command, as the carousel spins rapidly, a dazzling light shines from Odin's forehead, along with the wooden steed he controls, seem to be infused with new life at this moment. When their speed reaches the maximum, they enter a mysterious tunnel. Shadow thinks he has entered a dream, but the real sensation and temperature remind him that this is indeed the real world. When Jack awakens from unconsciousness, he discovers he is actually in the Hall of the Gods. This is the legendary Valhalla, the Hall of Odin. Queen Sheba leads him here. She witnesses a surprising scene. The gods of myth and legend are almost all gathered here, in response to Odin's invitation. Since the rise of the new gods in this land, the prestige of the old gods has gradually diminished. The faith of their followers has also wavered. Odin, in order to protect this land, decides to gather the gods to confront the new gods and vie for dominance. The spider god steps forward in support. He has suffered from racial prejudice in his heart, and has endured discrimination from white people. Starting from the invasion of the Gold Coast by the Portuguese, the discrimination against black people by white people has never ceased. Although they are currently in a weak position, he still advocates for waging war against the new gods with racial discrimination. Odin agrees with the spider god's idea. When people first landed in America, they took root in the consciousness of the people. Over the years, they have protected countless faithful believers. But gradually, people, in pursuit of a better material life, abandoned the old gods who once protected them. Therefore, led by Odin, the faction of old gods, their power of faith will gradually disappear, leading to the disappearance of the old gods. The god of darkness, Chernobog, also agrees. The battle ignites his fiery spirit. However, the goddess of Ghana remains reserved about the war. She has witnessed the rise and fall of the new gods, and is aware of the decline of the old gods. Just as the gods are passionately discussing, Jack, who was on the side, suddenly interrupts them. He says that he once had nothing. The death of his mother, and the betrayal of his girlfriend left him confused, while it was Odin who, in his most helpless moment, ignited hope in his life. He firmly believes that Odin can lead them to regain their former glory. In his view, people should remember the names of these old gods, and believe in these creators again. The gods only need to seize the opportunity to regain their thrones. After Jack's speech, the gods are moved by his words. They all make a firm decision to follow their chief god, Odin, and engage in a decisive battle against the new gods. Odin thus gains powerful determination for the battle. As flames glow brightly around him, After the meeting, they return to the mortal world, taking on the appearance of ordinary people. They celebrate their reunion and shared purpose. At this moment, Queen Sheba takes out her phone and opens the location system. After sending a message, she quickly leaves. It turns out, she is actually an undercover agent sent by the new gods. She supports Odin in launching a war against the new gods. It's just a means for her to gain trust. The message sent by Queen Sheba is immediately received by Mr. World. Mr. World immediately issued an assassination order. The gods inside the house are still in a joyful and cheerful atmosphere. They are completely unprepared for this. At this time, Shadow is still unaware that danger has arrived. He is on a date with Laura. After so many twists and turns, Shadow has also accepted Laura. Suddenly, a red infrared beam cuts through the night. A gunshot shatters the tranquility. A deity is shot in the head. The bullet bears the mark of the god of death. Being hit, even gods cannot escape the fate of death. The main god, Odin, can only choose to temporarily withdraw. He is hit by this bullet. He won't die, but he will be disabled for a while. Everyone watches as their companion falls. Jack is the first to react. He rushes out of the tavern. Using infrared tracking, he quickly locates the assassin's position. He tries to stop this tragedy. After a fierce battle, Jack knocks down the assassin. The assassin pulls out a remote control. A dazzling beam lifts Jack into the sky. When everyone regains their senses, many gods have already passed away. The goddess of sunset is shot in the abdomen. Watching his former lover is dying, Odin is deeply saddened. Chernobog, who has been with the goddess of sunset for the longest time, in the name of the gods, he curses, before even going to war with the new gods. Old Gods faction has already lost 2 important generals in succession. This almost makes Odin break down. Then he asks Laura to investigate Jack's location. She discovers that Jack has been transported, by a mysterious pillar of light, to another city. Odin wants to resurrect the goddess of sunset first, but Chernobog tells him, the goddess of sunset has lost all her followers. Without the power of belief to support her, she will eventually die. Chernobog wants to attack the new god's stronghold, but Odin stops him. Odin persuades Chernobog to calm down. If the new gods dare to launch an attack, it means they are already prepared. Odin wants to retrieve his Spear of Eternity. This is opposed by Laura, because Laura believes it would take too much time and effort. As a result, the recently formed small team splits up again, due to disagreements. The ancient all-seeing eye Argus, his power used to be able to perceive all things, but in the changing times, his abilities have been severely weakened. To adapt to modern technology, his lower body has transformed into thick cables, so that he can utilize the internet and explore every corner of the world. A conflict between the old and new gods is about to begin, and he naturally becomes part of this war. The object of contention between the two sides, Mr. World recalls and strengthens the media goddess, and intends to merge her with Argus, in order to control everything on the internet. They can then dominate this battle. Their plan seems perfect, but Odin's raven has already sensed it. After learning the truth, he decides to assign this task to Laura, hoping that Laura can solve this problem. In recent times, Laura's body is decaying at an accelerated rate. This means that the power of the lucky coin is on the verge of depletion. At this moment, Odin promises, if Argus can be eliminated, he will recharge the coin with power. Faced with such an opportunity, Laura accepts the mission, because she still has to find Jack, and in order to kill a deity, ordinary weapons are ineffective. Odin leads Laura into a mysterious space. That is the place where the first-generation Argus fell. Standing next to his corpse is a cow. That is the legendary Io. She was once favored by Zeus's love, but she was discovered by Hera. Hera turned Io into a cow, and she was guarded by the all-seeing eye of Argus. To obtain a weapon capable of killing deities, it is necessary to baptize the weapon with Io's blood. Odin draws out a dagger, and cuts open the cow's throat. The blade, which was just ordinary moments ago, instantly transforms into a weapon imbued with divine power. After leaving there, the two of them continue to pursue the true form of Argus. Since Argus' method of resurrection is unique each time, Odin can only explore them one by one, through their subtle connections. Fortunately, they quickly find the hiding place of Argus. At that moment, Technical Boy has already arrived with the media goddess. Argus senses the immense power of the media goddess. His body becomes restless. He controls his cable tentacles to approach the media goddess. Then, countless cables penetrate the body of the media goddess. At the moment, when Argus and the media goddess are about to merge, Odin and Laura arrive here. Odin hands the dagger to Laura. and tells her the vital spot of Argus. Laura tightly grasps the dagger and enters the room. The waiting technical boy does not intervene, because he knows Odin's power well. Laura is able to get close to Argus as well. At the moment, when the media goddess and Argus are about to merge, she stabs the dagger into Argus' neck. With the failed fusion, the media goddess suffers a backlash. Technical boy can only take her away from there, because he doesn't want to invite trouble upon himself. Looking at the motionless Argus, Odin knows he has countless ways to resurrect again. He then approached Argus and told him, "This is just a war transaction. It's not targeting a specific person." He hopes that after resurrecting in another way, he must recognize himself. Don't choose the wrong side again. As Argus' all-seeing eye disappeared, a powerful force flowed into the lucky coin inside Laura's body. Her originally withered and pale skin instantly regained vitality and radiated the brilliance of life. The grievances between Laura and Odin also come to an end, but Odin still refused her request to act together, because Jack's fate is currently unknown, and Odin cannot let Jack know about the killing of Argus. It would have an impact on his plan. I have to say, Odin is indeed a genius, who likes kicking down the ladder after solving problems. Before joining the Avengers, Thor, the god of thunder, performed at a nightclub. In fact, this nightclub was actually owned by his father, Odin. Odin had opened this nightclub with the spider god. Thor, with his exceptional performing talent and his immense physical strength, naturally became the star of the show. There, he met a woman named Bianca. They liked each other. Thor wanted to leave. However, Odin didn't want to give up these businesses for the great task of reclaiming the throne. Odin chose to collaborate with the German military, hoping to gather the power of belief for himself. Through war, the higher-ups in Germany also highly valued Thor's power. In this way, both sides quickly reached an agreement. With the assistance of the German government, Thor quickly became a weightlifter. One day, Thor received a mission to show his country's strength. Thor was asked to lose to Germany in the competition. As a godly being, he didn't want to be manipulated, but Odin was his father. He had to do his fathers a favor, so he suppressed his godly powers and decided to leave. He arranged to meet Bianca at the alley's entrance. They went back to pack their belongings. It didn't take long. Odin found Bianca. It turned out he already knew their plan. In the conversation, Odin deliberately leaked Thor's whereabouts, informing Bianca that Thor has left. Bianca felt very upset after hearing it. Odin arrived at the alley where they had agreed to meet. He wanted to convince Thor to go back and participate in the rigged match. He fabricated a lie that Bianca had left on her own, attempting to shake his son's determination. Thor became angry. He was certain that Odin had somehow used mysterious magic to influence Bianca. Odin didn't care about Thor's view of himself at all. His only goal was to make Thor return and participate in the match, and then intentionally lose, so that he can strengthen the power of faith. Odin even threatened to banish Thor, to strip him of everything. Thor wasn't interested in these threats. The cane in his hand suddenly transformed into the legendary artifact, the Spear of Eternity called Gungnir. Thor summoned his hammer, Mjolnir. The two artifacts clashed. Odin's Spear of Eternity was shattered into two pieces. Thor took this opportunity to break ties with his father. At this point, the conflict between the old gods and the new gods has entered a critical stage. Odin, using the power of the fire spirit, retrieved the broken Spear of Eternity and brought back a seedling of the World Tree, and he carefully nurtured it to accelerate its growth. Odin irrigated it daily with sacred water. However, due to the Spear of Eternity's long period of disuse, its runes had lost their original radiance. Odin sought the assistance of the forging god in the Dwarven kingdom. In exchange for a leather jacket, received his assistance. The forging god recited an ancient spell to awaken the runes of the divine spear with his own power. Meanwhile, Mr. World, sensing the energy of the Spear of Eternity, became alert to guard against Odin's retaliation. He called upon the media goddess to gather the power of millions of online followers through live broadcasting, preparing for a battle against Odin. On the other side, Odin returned to his residence with the broken pieces of the spear. He plucked a branch from the World Tree and placed it at the point of fracture on Gungnir. As Odin chanted ancient runes, the tree branch quickly merged with the spear's shaft, completing the repair work successfully. However, Odin didn't keep Gungnir for himself. Instead, he entrusted it to Jack. A great war between the old and new gods was approaching, and Odin hoped that Jack would wield the Spear of Eternity and take up the responsibility of guarding him. Jack accepted the task of guarding Odin As night fell, the dwarf who learned about this matter immediately went to Jack's room, cautioning him to be wary of Odin's words. The dwarf also hoped that Jack would return the Spear of Eternity to Odin, and not get too close to him, while Jack believed that the dwarf was speaking nonsense. After all, Odin had entrusted him with his most powerful weapon. The dwarf warned Jack that Odin's goodwill might be a carefully designed illusion. If there are any emergencies in the future, Odin could abandon him. The dwarf's persuasion didn't convince Jack. The dwarf decided to share his recently recovered memories. To prove his words, the dwarf's past identity was actually that of a king of a certain divine race, worshipped by his followers as the god of luck. That was also the reason why the dwarf could conjure lucky coins. During his long years of warfare, he freed the Vanir gods from the cruel rule of the Jotnar. The leader of the Jotnar happened to be the dwarf's grandfather. A deity once prophesied to the dwarf's grandfather that he would be killed by his own descendants, so the grandfather captured and drowned all his offspring in the sea, attempting to strangle the culprit in the cradle. But the lucky dwarf not only survived, but also successfully killed his grandfather. However, the deceased grandfather unexpectedly transformed into Odin. It turns out it was his incarnation. Everything Odin has done was to manipulate the dwarf clan. The dwarf who regained his memories decided to kill Odin. He hoped Jack wouldn't interfere, but Jack didn't believe him at all. The two soon engaged in a fight, but the dwarf was no match for Jack, and was quickly defeated by Jack. To divert Jack's attention, the dwarf said that Mr. Wednesday arranged for him to kill Laura. In order to make Jack serve him faithfully, Jack defeated the dwarf, and turned to ask Odin about the truth. But as they argued, the dwarf picked up the Spear of Eternity and stabbed Odin. Sensing the danger, Jack snatched the spear and thrust it into the dwarf's body. Even though he didn't want to see such an outcome, it was already irreversible. In the dwarf's final moments, he transformed the Spear of Eternity into the sun's treasure, disappearing without a trace. With the disappearance of the Spear of Eternity, Odin's efforts over the past few hundred years to repair the Spear of Eternity were completely destroyed by the dwarf. As his most powerful weapon was now gone, the world's order starts to tremble. Mr. World senses this change. He immediately initiates his plan. The new gods launch their final siege against them. Mr. World manipulates the network and alters media information. He first triggers panic using unidentified flying objects. Then he manipulates the media goddess to control the network. He alters the identity photos of online fugitives and changes them to Jack and Odin. Odin and Jack become terrorists who killed 7 policemen. Upon learning this news, Odin busies himself with calming the public, while taking advantage of the night to slip away. The next day, the FBI, based on the clues provided by Mr. World, surrounds the funeral parlor where the old gods are. Jack also tries to escape. However, the world tree entangles his ankle and pulls him deep into its trunk. As his body keeps descending, flashes of the past images fill Jack's mind. He finally realizes his true identity, and it's not Jack, but the thunder god Thor, the son of the Allfather Odin. Knowing the truth, Jack grabs a hammer and strikes the world tree. Soon, he carves a hole, accompanied by a burst of light. The world tree disappears with Jack, leaving behind a damaged axe. Jack, who escaped, gets on a bus, but he gets stopped by the police. As the police check his identification, Jack's identity has already changed. Odin is sitting in a cafe, sipping coffee, showing no concern for Jack's safety. It seems that everything that has happened was already within his expectations. Thus, the plot of American Gods Season 2 comes to an end here. American Gods premiered in 2019, directed by Chris Byrne, and depicted an exhilarating and extraordinary story. If the main storyline of the first season was declaring war, then the focus of this season should be on preparing for war. In Neil Gaiman's original work, there was never a large-scale war between the old and new gods. Instead, it focused on how the old and new gods displayed their powers. Under the pressure of an impending war, the old gods, led by Odin, embarked on a nationwide road trip to gather allies, while the new gods, led by Mr. World, engaged in covert sabotage. The mortal character Jack experienced incredible adventures. Based on the direction of the story this season, the writers and directors lean towards replicating the main plot of the original work but with reduced road trip scenes. While introducing more old gods, the show also delves into the stories of the previously introduced old gods, such as Mad Sweeney's homeland and Thor's death, which are incredibly moving. These two storylines serve the common purpose of foreshadowing Odin's transformation. While the first season featured the prominent appearances of characters like the Queen of Sheba, Technical Boy, and Media Goddess, they felt somewhat ordinary this season. the visual quality remains high, maintaining the same level of production quality as the first season. The visuals are still cinematic, and of top-notch quality. More new characters are introduced, and similar to the previous season, the most exciting elements are still the interlude scenes. Therefore, the episodes focusing on Thor's death and the origins of the dwarves carry significant weight. The birth, death, and upgrades of the new gods this season are all perfectly planned. From the current perspective, this series can be seen as an expanded version of the original work, continuously raising the expectations of countless fans for the third season. In conclusion, the American Gods series is a fantasy adventure television show worth watching. If you enjoy my channel, please consider subscribing.